Right, I've just arrived at my Syndicate Northwick, and a bit of a rarity for me, I've got 2 nights ahead of me. Rather than having a quick scout around and dropping in for an overnighter, 48 wonderful hours to have a look and see if we can't catch a couple of these special carp that reside in here. Now, we are probably in the middle of what has been the hottest summer that I can certainly remember, but over the last few days we've finally had a bit of rain, some torrential downpours at that. As just this morning there was another massive one, and I thought could be a bit of a wet bit of fishing, but that sort of change in weather can really send the fish absolutely crazy. I'm going to have a look, not too sure what to expect. They could be down rooting around looking for signs of fizzing, they could be by the island, but having said that, the sun is now beaming down yet again, so they could be up on the surface. I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket. I don't want to commit to a type of fishing before I even have a look at the lake. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have a wander around with my mixer kit. If I see any fish, flick some mixer. If they start taking, see if we can nab a quick one. See you in a bit. Me running down the bank can only mean one thing. I've been firing some mixers out in one of the swims, funnily enough, really close to the car park, and almost straight away they're taking. Floater kit, unhooking mat, let's go. This is one of the most exciting, but also most frustrating ways of getting a bite. There's probably 10 or 12 fish mincing around. They're not going absolutely crazy, but I'd say they're going enough to get a bite. When you're floater fishing, you're looking for that that competition. It's a bit like when you're feeding over a lot of bait. When you're fishing with particle, you get a group of fish feeding. If you're fishing 2 rods on the spot, you tend to get a flurry of action. Often get 2 rods going at almost the same time, where they're getting so preoccupied and they don't want to lose out on the next mouthful of food. I liken that to floater fishing. But at least when on the bottom, you can't see it happening. When it's like this, I mean, that is next to my mixer. But feeding is definitely the key to success. If you see a few on the surface and you just put like a single mixer out, realistically, you're not going to catch it. But if you keep some bait trickling in, over a period of time, they tend to get more and more confident. And when they get to the stage where, well, we call it Pac-Manning, like Pac-Man eating all the little tablets, whatever it was. You get carp going like that. And at the moment, it feels more a case of when I get the take, not if. There's one coming towards it now. But it's staying patient. The thing you want to keep doing is keep recasting where you see them pop up somewhere else. But I think they have a little mouthful of food, and as they drift out around, it's just where they're chewing it and digesting it, and they come back in for another go. And the more you recast, I think you're actually lowering your chances of getting a bite. There's a group of mixers and a group of fish all around my hook bait. But because of the way the wind's drifting, in a second I'll put another spommer bait out to the right, so the wind's bringing it. I don't want to bait up on top of them. Obviously a spom landing on their heads in this situation when they're so close to the surface could spook them all. They're just starting to come back now and eat a couple. One fish in particular looks pretty big. While they're just behind the spot though, I'm going to put another pouch full out. Lost my hook bait. Oh no. I literally can't see my hook bait. Unless it's that one. No, I'm on a bit of weed. There it is. Patience is a virtue. Now, I don't want to be greedy. Don't care how big the fish is, not like that, but this is the time where you hope that hooking one doesn't spook the rest of them. You can carry on getting chances. It's quite weedy out there, so the fish has just gone into a bit of weed, so it's just a case of being patient. There is a boat should we need to, but just lost it.
We were waiting for that.
You were, darling. Right, we're back in the game. Come on, you're there, so are the ducks. This is a race against time here. The ducks have spooked my carp. It's not cricket, Mr. Duck. Not cricket at all. That was close. Still, they're still feeding, which when you've had a bite and you've lost it, you've got to take the positives. Right, hopefully a little bit of revenge on Mr. Carp. They're 1-0 up at the minute. I've got my little helper netting for me, haven't I, Ems? And when I say lift it, we're going to probably lift it together, aren't we? Got to try and stop him going in the way. Oh, look, he's angry. I actually managed to hook that fish off the side of the spot, so they're still actually taking out in the main water. Hopefully, Ems, we can net this one. We might get an even bigger one. What do you reckon?
Maybe.
You ready, Ems?
Yeah.
He's coming. There he is. Oh, it's a nice common.
Whoa.
Quite big, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. Listen to that again. Come on, you can do this. Come on. What should we call it?
Dave?
No.
Emily?
Yeah, no. That's my name.
Colin? Colin the common.
Colin Key.
Colin Key?
Yeah.
Well, how about we concentrate on getting him in the net?
Colin.
I prefer Dave. I'm only fishing with a really light hook link, like 8 pounds, so it is a long fight, but every time he goes to take line, you just got to let him. Let's face it, we come here for the fight, we enjoy that.
Yeah.
Don't we, Ems?
Yeah, we do.
Ready?
Yeah.
Ready, Ems? Because he's not still.
Can you hold on to it? I'm really.
You got cramp, have you? There you go. My nets lady's given up. She's got cramp. What can you do? Literally every time I touch the net, it turns around. This time, Emily. Surely. Yes! Which one are we doing? Which one are we doing? Oh, okay. La 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 la.
Got it. Mm-hmm.
High five. get in. Well, Emily, what you saying about that?
Perfect.
That will do for me. Just under £29. Do just want to make an important point, really. This time of year, when we have had such a hot summer, I normally like to get a fish in the net and then quickly try and catch another one, but there could be oxygen issues, they're under a lot of stress, the water level's down. So rather than risk it, I've got it out of the water, weighed it, gonna get it straight back before I try and catch another one. But let's just enjoy this, eh? 28.14 of, as Emily says, perfect common.
Dad.
Yes, darling. Your mum's gonna go mad. Well, I've persevered for probably an hour longer than I should have done. They've slowly stopped taking the biscuits. Either the confidence is gone, the weather's got too hot, and they are just milling around not eating. So rather than flog a dead horse and keep having a go, I want to get the kit ready for tonight. I've seen so many fish here. I've seen fish rolling around as well, as if they're perhaps on someone else's bait, or there's a natural larder there having a bit of a gorge on. That's enough for me. Seen no signs elsewhere. I'm going to set up here for the first night. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully we can nick a couple off the bottom. Okay, now what I've done here might seem a bit like a bit of a faff around, but I know for a fact that over by that island there's always some real nice clean spots. I could cast to it from there. It's probably about 80 yards, so it's not a particularly long way, but it would definitely take more than one attempt. So, believe it or not, I can walk to that island. I can see there's a shallow gravel bar going all the way out to the zone that I expect there to be some clean areas, and I saw some fish there earlier. So by doing this, by casting over, clipping my rig on, I can obviously ensure my rig's not got damaged. I can then walk it into position, simply lower it, and I can bait mega accurately. With this one, I'm kind of attempting to make this my big fish rig. I'm fishing a blatant pop-up with a handful of 18mm link over the top. The big one he seems to have a bit of a habit for falling to small traps of bait, and not too much of it in this sort of situation in and around the island. Might as well try and put the odds in your favour, mightn't you? Let's see if it works. After sorting the first rod out, tight to the island, it was just a case of getting the other two done, but it was nice and simple. I'm fishing relatively short range, 2 rods fished over the same bait mix as some Power Plus particles, some 10mm link chucked in as well, along with some pellet just to give the mix that extra bit of oily attraction. Once that's all done, time to watch the water for a bit, but as it's the school holidays, Emily's with me, so I'm going to make sure to watch a couple of YouTube videos with her before we turn in for the night. Well, what did I tell you? By putting them 18mm boilies on the island and trying to single out the bigger fish, I've managed to catch the smallest fish in the lake. It had to happen, I suppose. Who cares? It's a bite, another one off the list if you like, and it's a lovely, lovely little carp. Day ahead, been seeing a bit of fizzing coming up over me particle this morning. I've been getting a couple of liners, so I'm hopeful of a bite. I'll certainly be putting a few more mixers out as well. And if not much else happens through the day and the island doing the only bite, I might tweak my tactics slightly and fish a couple over that way tonight. We'll just see how the day pans out. Tell you what, I'm doing a lot of running this session. I saw a fish show from right around the other side where I've sort of done the night. Come round to have a look, and lo and behold, in this little weed bed right in the margin, I saw a group of about 15 fish. Now the interesting thing was I followed a couple of them. One was actually a big ghostie that I've caught before, but he was very much looking down in the edge for food. Yesterday, I did manage to nick a couple of bites off the surface, but at no point were they really having it. And there is every chance they are more looking for food on the bottom. So the best thing about my particle mix, not only is it great on a hard area out in the lake to get the fish grubbing around, it is the perfect method for drawing them in and getting them to drop down right in the edge as well. Just a couple of little handfuls will do. I want to try and set a couple of traps now, set a couple of hopefully fishing opportunities, and if I see them drop down and have a mouthful, I'll lower a rig on top. Fingers crossed again. Well, fishing in the summer is about keeping your options open and staying one step ahead of everyone else, if you can. Well, in this case, I've actually stayed one step ahead of the cameraman. You've just seen me baiting up some little spots in the back bay where I'd seen some carp that looked primed to lower a rig on maybe a bit later. I've come back round to my swim, lo and behold, it was like carp soup out on the surface. So I've put a single spommer mixers out, they devoured the lot, flicked my hook bait out, my rig that was still ready from yesterday, and very quickly, I've got this absolutely perfect mirror carp on the bank. Cameraman didn't have a clue. Little tip for you though, don't just sit behind motionless rods, especially when it's this hot. It might not look hot where we're sat in the shadow, but the light is very dappled. We're under some trees. It's probably 25, 26 degrees. Sitting behind motionless rods is no fun. Get out and look for them. Well, what about that? I know you've only just seen me put a fish back, and I'm sorry you didn't see the fight again. There were fish taking mixers. The cameraman had to nip back round the other side to get the rest of his kit. He begged me not to cast out, but I'm sorry. Big fish were taking mixers, so I flicked it out. I've had an absolutely epic battle. It weeded me up solid. I've had to go out in the boat for it. Big testament to a little size 10 mixer and 8-pound cruiser line, because that stuff just took some beating. But 34.12. It's my first ever 30-pounder off the top. I'm a little bit blown away. What a carp. Mainline baits have been doing a range of particle for a couple of years now, and you know what, the best thing about them is they come in a jar and they're ready to go as soon as you open up. You haven't got to prepare them yourself, they're absolutely fresh and ready to go. First up is hemp. It's probably the most classic particle of all time, and if this is your first time of using it, that would probably be the one I would go for. Next up, it's the spom range. As the name would suggest, ready to go straight into a spom, cast it out, but basically, it's just giving you a few more different options. You've got lots and lots of different seeds in there, different colours, something just to give the fish a little bit more to think about. Next up is the pulse range. Very similar to the spom, but this one has got some bigger pulses in. It's got maples, it's got some maize in there as well. Again, just some bigger items that are really going to give the fish something to think about when they're feeding in and around the zone. The great thing with particles is that they take on flavour really, really well, and you can kind of personalise it. But you know what? Mainline have already done that for you as well. Each of the jars of particle that I've just mentioned, they come ready prepared in either multi-stim, cell flavour, essential cell flavour, or the link. So if you've got a favourite boilie from the Mainline range, you can simply buy the matching jar of particle, put your boilies in, and it's all ready to go. Now there is one more in the range as well, and that is the Tiger Nut. Probably one of my favourite. Carp absolutely love to crunch these things, and when they come ready prepared in multi-stim as well, you know they're going to keep coming back for more. Now you might be watching this thinking, I'm catching quite a few carp just using boilies, why do I want to have a little switch up to particle? Well, let me tell you, there comes a time where you might put your rig out, you might put 50 boilies around in it, a carp, 2 or 3 carp come in quickly, and they could very easily eat all of that bait and disappear, and you might not get that all-important bite. When you start to feed particle, when you look at a handful of stuff, there's so many little bits that the carp have to eat that there's no quick feeding for them. They have to stay around for a long time. It keeps them preoccupied, keeps them properly in the zone, and it increases your chances of getting that all-important pickup. Trust me, you need to give them a go. Fishing with particle, in many ways, is the same as fishing with any chosen bait that you normally do. With these, you simply open the tub, pour them into a bucket, they're ready to go, straight into your spom to cast out onto the spot. I like fishing them in the margins as well, so little handfuls just drop around here and there. The beauty with all of these is that they're brilliant on their own. A single jar will do you absolutely fine, but depending on your budget, you can also mix them. If you wanted to try a jar of the Pulse with a load of hemp, some of the Tiger Nuts, you can do it all. The benefit of mixing different particles together is the different hook bait options that it gives you. Now, if you've got lots and lots of small pieces of bait out there and you decide to fish a big snowman hook bait, that is going to stand out like a sore thumb. It's more important to try and mimic exactly what you're feeding. So for instance, if you've got some Tiger Nuts in there, you can fish a Tiger Nut on the hair. If you've got a bit of the Pulse range, you've got some lovely bits of maize, maples, they're all brilliant hook baits that definitely trip up fish more often than they don't. And for this session, that's exactly what I've been doing. I've been mixing a few of the particles together. I've got a couple of big handfuls of hemp, I've got a couple of handfuls of the Pulse mix, and then just a handful of Tiger Nuts in there as well. But to top it off, I like to add some link flavoured response pellets. That's my choice. You can use the cell, the essential cell, whatever one you like. I'm going with the link, along with some 10mm boilies, because like I say, I want the fish to come in on that buffet style menu where they're not quite sure what they want to pick up next. And amongst that, I'm probably going to take a couple of the Tiger Nuts and use them as hook baits. Fingers crossed something happens. Thing with particles, they're great for fishing to a little spot where you want to keep the fish occupied. Now, the key to that is being mega accurate. So what I've done, I've actually wrapped my spot out. I found a little spot, it's not very big, there's weed all the way around it, and I want to hold the carp there for as long as possible, but I want to give them something to go down there for in the first place. So by putting this particle mix out, not only is it really, really attractive for pulling the fish down, but being such small items of food, once they get down there, the likelihood is that they're going to stay there for longer, giving me more chance of getting that all-important bite. Now, I did fish this spot last night and I had a couple of liners. I saw some bubbling on it early this morning but didn't get the bite. But funnily enough, this afternoon, I've seen 2 fish show right on top of it. So that tells me that whilst fish did come into the swim and did have a little feed, they didn't eat everything. So I'm not going to put loads of bait out tonight. I'm literally going with 10 or 11 little spoms just to give a nice little spread. And I'm going to fish a hook bait absolutely bang on top of it. So that's also wrapped to 10 wraps. So I know that everything is on a sixpence. Hopefully that means they turn up again. There's a bit less bait out there. And get another lovely big carp. There we go, baiting up done. Just a matter of flicking the last rod out and the rest is down to the carp. Well, how about that for a chestnut bruiser? beat me up a bit this morning, but I landed him over a bed of that particle that I showed you last night. And as I mentioned, when you're using different particles, you can take little bits out and use them as your own hook bait. That's exactly what I did. So when I put him back, I'm going to show you how I prepare my tiger nuts as hook baits, and as just as important, what rig I used as well. Just over £25. Happy days. But before I cast this rig back out into the lake, I just want to take you through exactly why I use it, and more importantly, how you can use it and tie it yourself too. So to start with, I take about 10 inches of the dark matter tungsten impregnated coated braid. It's got a nice stiffness to it, so once you've set your rig up correctly when you cast out, it's always going to push the rig away from the lead system, ensuring that not only does it remain tangle free whilst it's in the air, but should a fish pick it up and reject your rig, it will represent and it will be ready to go for when the next Mr. Carp comes along. So to start with, I strip back about 4 inches of the coating, and in the top of that, I tie a small hair. Then take a size 4 crank, using a knotless knot of about 9 turns is about right with this braid, making sure you leave yourself a hair long enough to take a couple of tiger nuts. I'm using tiger nuts, it is suitable for other bits of particle as well, and to be fair, it's just as suitable for a balanced boilie too. This is what I like to use. If you take a close look here, I've only got a very small section of stripped braid near the hook. That just gives it that element of movement that it sometimes needs to ensure that it finds an important hook hold in that bottom lip. Moving up to the lead system, I cut it off and tie a figure of 8 loop so that my rig is approximately 6 to 7 inches long. Now that obviously depends on the type of bottom that you're fishing over and the type of situation you're faced with. You could go really, really short with it if you're fishing a really hard bottom. Equally, you could go a bit longer if you're fishing in a bit of sediment or over a little bit of low-lying weed. 6 to 7 inches is a really good starting point though. So underneath here, there's a figure of 8 loop knot. In fact, I'll just pull this anti-tangle sleeve back for you so you can see what happens. Under there, you've got a quick change size 8 swivel, and that just enables me to unclip that quickly when I've had a fish for argument's sake and get another rig on in the quickest time possible. Whilst that's off, I'll show you this end as well. It's a traditional lead clip system that I'm using, but rather than using it so that it's locked onto the swivel so the fish feels the force of the lead and causes that bolt effect, I've actually changed it up a little bit, something I've been doing of late. I've taken my crimping tool and I've actually squeezed down this swivel so that, as you can see, it doesn't lock into position. And what I believe happens is when a carp picks your rig up, they've become so used to this type of rig that they can, in certain situations, use the weight of that lead to actually eject the hook. We've seen it on the underwater filming, we know it happens, but as they move away with it, that simply follows it too, giving them nothing to do. They've sort of moved further and further backwards, and by that time, you're starting to get a bit of an indication, and trust me, this can put more fish on the bank. And then finally, I've got about 15 inches of dark matter anti-tangle tubing. Again, does 2 things. During flight, this could bounce back. This just makes sure it doesn't tangle in the main line and that it's always going to be presented when it hits the water. And finally, it just keeps that bit around the hook bait and around the baited area pinned to the bottom to ensure that when the lead hits the bottom on the lake bed and this pushes away, whatever bait you're using needs to be balanced correctly. Now, when I'm using tiger nuts, what I actually do, as you can see here, I've got a piece of cork in the middle. I take a 6mm bait drill, I drill out about 3/4 of each tiger nut, and then quite simply cut the cork to length, pull it all up tight. And what that will do, it won't actually make these float, it's totally negating the weight of the hook, so that this will act on the bottom exactly the same as all the other tiger nuts in your loose feed. But like I said, what it will do is ensure that it sinks that little bit slower and it will push away like so, ready for Mr. Carp to come along. There you go, easy as that. I'm gonna get it back out there now, see if we can nab another one. Right, so as you can see, I've managed to have another bite, and I will just say, this is the great thing with tiger nuts as hook baits. When carp eat a tiger nut, they don't actually digest it straight away, they chew it, and when they pass it out, it's still edible food. So, believe it or not, carp are actually used just to finding random tiger nuts. So I've seen a little bit of fizzing out towards the island, but rather than make too much sort of disturbance, I've just flicked a pair of tiger nuts out there. Lo and behold, I've got a fish on, but I think it's got into one of my other rods and it's in the weed. So what I'm going to try and do, put the odds in my favour, is open this bail arm and jump straight in the boat. I've had a couple of boat battles and the weed seems to, once you get over the top of it, you seem to be able to get the fish out quite easy. I thought it was moving then, but I'm not going to take any risks. When you're using a boat and you've got a fish on, if you just go very gently, you can actually pull yourself out to the fish. But always have one of these on. No matter how good you are at swimming, things can go wrong. Ah! Having a beast. I've got a feeling the fish is already gone. No. Well, there we go. Here's the result of that boat battle, which was the result of casting a pair of tiger nuts to a showing carp. 26 pound, mega common, and do you know what? It's been a wicked session. I hope you've got something from it, from using particles, catching on the surface, and just in general, trying to keep trying things to keep the bobbins moving. I've had a wicked time. A couple of days on the bank catching wicked carp, having my little princess with me as well. What do you reckon, Emily?
Perfect.
There we go. Couldn't say it better myself.